on Monday, but on account of the holiday, we got him here on the second day of the week. And Landon, I'm pretty sure you needed some extra time because, man, geologists, meteorologists, scientists across disciplines and everything like that, everybody was so fixated on what was going on after that Tonga eruption and everything. So good morning, first of all, and of course our thoughts and prayers to the good people of Tonga this morning.
Yeah, definitely a good Tuesday morning to you, Jason, and everybody on Guam and everybody else elsewhere watching. It was definitely a very busy weekend. We were on our toes watching things here at the weather office, as well as everyone across the morning community across the entire Pacific Basin. And I was talking to someone in Pompeii at the embassy down there, that it's events like that that happen in Tonga that really bring the broader community together of all the Met services, the National Weather Service folks, the warning coordinators, the emergency directors and emergency managers. We're all united as one to protect life and property. And that's what we were doing on Saturday and Sunday as that tsunami was expanding outward across much of the Pacific Basin. So we did have a little bit of a tsunami pulse come through our region and the gauges, and I'll show you that shortly once we go to the slides. But let's talk about the weather. I had a lot of questions about the weather, especially on Sunday. Is this related to the volcano? And fortunately, the weather we had over the weekend that's ongoing now this morning and the next several days, that is not related to the volcano. This is something that we were talking about a week ago. We're talking about a shear line coming through the region on the weekend. That's exactly what happened, as that shear line to our north dropped down over our area, and it came in force. So I'm going to turn my camera around and show you what we're looking at on the screen right now.
Yeah, Sunday was completely gray except for like about 5:45 for about 15 minutes, and then the sun went down.
That's correct. And that was a great day to stay inside and catch up on chores. I was in the office catching up on documents and other stuff related to the tsunami aftermath and some other projects I'm working on that I'm so behind on at the moment. But it's definitely not as wet and rainy as it was on Sunday. And we had a high temperature on Sunday of 80 degrees. So if you were chilly that day, yeah, it was for good reason, because we were just socked in those clouds and the showers much of the day on Sunday. And so if you have friends and family in the States that's complaining about the winter weather over there, let them know that we feel their pain, because we are suffering with them in this cold winter weather. So we're seeing some clouds move over the island, some spotty showers keeping things wet with peaks of sunshine. Where is the heaviest rainfall? Well, right now that's in this line right there, right across Rhode Island. That's where the bulk of the showers and the clouds are located right now. And so this axis of the heaviest weather, that was over Guam on Sunday. That's shifted just a little bit north. But if you go about 30 to 40 miles to the south, bone dry and sunny. So this is just the extent of these shear lines, how small they can be. So right now, the bulk of it's packed right between Guam and Saipan, and then drier, sunnier weather to the north. And is there potential for heavy rains or flooding or thunderstorms with this? That is not the case, because this is all shallow, low-level moisture with the heavier tropical stuff farther to the south. South of Pompeii, south of Palau, Yap, near Chuk, Pompeii, and Koshrai. And on the radar, that also shows what's going on. The butterfly effect, that's because of the stronger winds out over the waters. And that's going to continue for the days ahead, with the showers coming and going with peaks of sunshine. So go ahead and cue up the slides, Jason,
Gotcha.
And let's talk about the week ahead. And the season surf, that's where the main concern is as far as safety to life and property. We do have a high surf advisory in effect for east and north facing reefs, small craft advisory in effect for the open waters. The risk of rip currents is high along north and east facing reefs, and not so bad along west and south facing reefs and beaches. The Guam fire danger is high. We did have reports of several fires down south prior to all this rainfall, which the rainfall is much needed, because this will help mitigate the short-term fire danger, especially in the southern grasslands with the winds howling across the island. For the week ahead, expect breezy with a mix of sun and showers to continue through the weekend for Micronesia, surf advisories and small craft advisories for select islands. And we are issuing drought information statements for Welche and the Marshall Islands. So the next slide, this is just showing a scene from, I believe it's Buffalo, New York. That bus stuck in the snow and ice over there. And, as boring as this weather may be and mundane as it may be for people out here with the rain, it could be a lot worse. And so my friends from North Carolina sent me this picture from Winnie the Pooh. It's snowing still, said Eeyore gloomily. So it is. And freezing, is it? Yes, said Eeyore. However, he said, brightening up a little, we haven't had an earthquake lately. And so I think we are the opposite of this because we did have that earthquake. I think it was on Saturday or Sunday. We had an earthquake here at 4.9.
And ironically,
we don't
leave
have
it to
that winter
Eeyore to be the
weather.
voice of optimism.
We always got to find the silver lining in every situation. There's always the light at the tunnel. And so I laughed when I saw this from my friend. And it's like, at least we haven't had major winter weather to complicate things. So,
Well, the 100-acre wood as Christopher Robin. I'll stick with Christopher Barnett. Like I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So the next slide. This is just to recap the surf advisories and the rip current risk. And again, that's for north-facing reefs and exposures and east-facing reefs and exposures. So do not be jumping off Pago Bay. Do not be hiking along the reef shelves because this is not the time you ought to be vulnerable and exposed to those water conditions. And if you are caught in the rip current, the next slide will show you what to do. Swim parallel to shore and break free of that rip current, but you're going to have to come over that reef. So when in doubt, don't go out, stay out of the water, at least for the next week. Retidium beaches, they are closed anytime there's a surf advisory in effect for north and facing reefs because of those strong currents up there. And so they will likely be closed all this week. Going back to last week, we were talking about El Nino. What does it translate to? And so I've got all that information for you. So El Nino translates to the little boy or Christ child in Spanish. And it originates from the 1600s as South American fishermen first noticed periods of unusually warm water in the Pacific Ocean. The full name they used was El Nino de Navidad, because El Nino typically peaks around December. So in the western North Pacific, tropical cyclones form farther east in an El Nino pattern because of that warmer pool of water in the ocean. Eastern Micronesia, for example, and the Marshall Islands. That means we have a typically much busier tropical cyclone season, a longer tropical cyclone season, and the WFO Guam air responsibility with more tropical cyclones passing through the Marianas and a dry season following that event. So think back to 2015 when we had all those storms, Bobby in March, Dolphin in May. Those were all during a strong El Nino year. The phases typically last around 4 years, but can be anywhere between 2 and 7 years. We are going into we're still in a La Nina event, and this is our second year. And could we go into a third year for La Nina? That's not too likely, but it's not out of the question. And so what is a La Nina? Well, that is little girl or El Viejo or anti-El Nino or simply a cold event. So again, if you haven't figured it out, it's opposite of an El Nino. The trade winds are typically stronger than usual, pushing that warm water westward toward Asia. So that also results in a rise in sea levels across this region with that pooling of water. In the western North Pacific, tropical cyclones tend to form farther west across western Micronesia and the Mariana Islands, but really don't significantly intensify until they're west of Guam. It results in a slower tropical cyclone season in our area with fewer tropical cyclones passing through Guam and the CNMI, and a wetter dry season following the La Nina event. That's where we are right now. So hopefully our drought won't be so bad. So the current conditions, cool and breezy out there. We did have a bit of rainfall the last several days. So we're just shy of 2.5 inches of rainfall for the month, and our days are getting longer. So our sunset gets a minute later on Wednesday. So you might be wondering what to do with your extra time during the daylight. That's just because we're going towards our longer days as we approach the spring months. The next slide, this is showing that Tonga volcanic eruption. Just for reference, a lot of people are asking where exactly is Tonga related to Guam? Is it close? Are we going to feel the effects? Fortunately, that ash plume, we're not expecting that to come anywhere near us, and we are some 3,600 miles apart. But we did see that signature of a very small signature of a tsunami passing through the buoys. The top gauge up there is Saipan. They had the little squiggy lines in that black trace. That's that tsunami pulse going through the tide gauge there. It probably translates to just a few inches at both Guam and the Saipan gauges, and those blue boxes are off centered. Sorry about that. But this is just to show that we are not tsunami proof, but we are tsunami ready. We have our plans in place with Guam Homeland Security and the Saipan Homeland Security offices that we know what to do and how to communicate effectively if there was a significant tsunami threat to the islands. And so we are always watching this 24/7. And again, this was a a tsunami-genic event with an underwater volcano in Tonga, and it did produce about a 3 to 4 foot tsunami wave in Tonga, causing problems. And then it went elsewhere across the Pacific, like Japan and Hawaii and California.
Landon,
So
I got
luckily,
a real
our
quick
roads
question.
were little.
When these volcanic events tend to happen, right, or like even a seismic event, like a really big earthquake, do the tsunami winds, are they truly like unidirectional and they go out like in all different trajectories and everything like that, or or will they only go like in a particular like purely east, purely west? Like how do those work?
Yes,
No.
that's a loaded question. And so there was a little bit of confusion from the Tsunami Warning Center about what was a tsunami risk to a number of islands and nations across the Pacific. And I think that was because it was an underwater volcanic eruption versus a traditional earthquake in a fault line. So it's really the shape and the direction of that eruption that affects things, as well as where that tsunami is directed, how large is it going to be, the amplitude. But more is known about the earthquakes, the genesis of that earthquake, the fault line, the depth of the earthquake, the hypocenter, so to speak. There's a lot of models being run constantly once an earthquake occurs. And so they can get the trajectory of the wave, the amplitudes, and the timing. So the amplitudes may not be always the most accurate, especially for specific coastlines and shores, like the Micronesian Islands and the Mariana Islands specific versus Hawaii, California, Japan. But they have a good idea, and the timing is usually within minutes of accuracy. So that is very good. And as these events continue to happen, there's always more research and studies being done, especially for modeling specific seashores and analyzing the bathymetry or the seafloor that has a significant effect on what kind of tsunami impacts that a certain location can experience.
Sure.
So a lot of work. And so these events, as bad as they are to occur, there's going to be a lot of research, a lot of study and money's put into this analysis that's going to be going into the aftermath. That was the case in 2004 with the Indonesia Sumatra tsunami and earthquake, and also in 2011, Japan.
Yeah, I remember that Banda Aceh tsunami and everything like that. That was really, really bad.
Yeah, that was an eye-opener for much of the global population. And so that's where a lot of our tools and methods are in place now because of that 2004 event. So sometimes it takes a significant event to really get money and funds for the proper research
and again,
to get underway.
Because this is a natural event, and forgive me for asking like a really weird Hollywood question, but with science and with all the technology that you guys have, and like geologists and all the other, like you said, all the emergency response community, you can kind of see it coming. Like at least you can after it happens, you can predict the after effects and everything like that. Is there anything that you guys can do to counteract that? Electromagnetism, like something like that, or you just have to basically just get ready?
I think you just have to get ready. There's always a question like putting a nuclear blast into a typhoon or something, and that's been ruled to be more problematic than helpful for a number of reasons. And that's why we're in the mitigation business. We are here to protect life and property and make sure people are prepared, whether it's for the long-term effects of climate change and global warming or the near-term effects of weather. We get typhoons, and they are not a freak of climate change, but they are regular occurrences that we get in this region. We are in Typhoon Alley, so typhoons can do and will continue to occur in our region. And so we have to be ready for that. And so we have to make sure people are most prepared. They have the tools and capabilities to be prepared and plan for the worst, but hope for the best.
That's why Armageddon was just a movie, kids.
Yes. Yeah, you always have to think outside of the box. And so we're, again, in that preparedness business. And so we'll have a lot of stuff coming up later this year when we go to Typhoon Preparedness Month in June and National Preparedness Month in September. So I'm already working on some plans for that.
Right on.
So moving on, this is our slide from Sunday, just showing that shear line and all the various hazards across the region. As far as the drought condition across the region, the Kapinga-Maringi situation has improved with rainfall there. But now we're starting to see the drier conditions creep in across the Mariana Islands and also the northernmost islands of Chuuk State and also the Marshall Islands. And that's going to continue to do so in the weeks and months ahead, especially as dry season really gets underway. The next slide shows those winds across the region, that black hash line across the chart. That is our shear line extending from south of Wake on over toward Hawaiian Islands and then all the way down to north of Palau. This little peak of yellows near CNMI. Those are the strongest winds along the shear line. And we're going to see this trend continue through the week with another shear line punching its way down southward on Thursday, and then another surge this week. And that's going to keep winds elevated, if not strengthen, as we go into the weekend. So that's going to have impacts on the waters, with the seas and surf going to be elevated through the week ahead, especially another peak possibly this weekend. Will it be as rainy as what we saw on Sunday? Not so much, but we're going to see those off and on showers continue through the week, with probably another uptick in showers this weekend. But we'll watch out for that, because things can and do change on a daily basis. But we are going to see those breezy conditions continue, as well as the elevated seas and surf. And again, for the week ahead, mostly cloudy with periods of scattered showers the next several days. But again, they're going to be punctuated with drier periods and peaks of sunshine. So it's not going to be an all-day washout. It's not going to be a flood type event. The winds will be out of the northeast at 15 to 20 miles per hour, increasing midweek with an extra push of the shear line coming down Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So do keep in tune for that as things progress through the week. Again, it's going to be breezy, but not so much a washout. So stay safe out there if you're on the waters.
And then, Landon, a quick pop quiz for you, I guess. We got a comment right now from Elizabeth Agagi. She's in Ewa Beach, Hawaii. You know, they're very, very familiar with weather systems and, you know, getting regional effects, shall we say. She's asking, she said, do you know when the asteroid passes Earth, and will we be able to see it?
You know, let me look into that, and I will get back to you. I have not been following that asteroid too closely, but I know if it's going to be in view of the Earth, we will definitely hear about it on social media. So let me follow up on that and see what I can find out.
Again, maybe another indirect Armageddon reference, but you know.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully, as long as it stays off the globe, we'll be fine.
Sure.
As long as we can just see it.
Okay, so Liz, Landon is gonna look into that for you and everything. In the meantime, we're gonna queue up some Aerosmith and remember like the great days of '90s disaster movies. All right, Landon, appreciate it, man. And you know, like glad you're you and your crew over there. Like you said, you've got a lot of synergy and you've got like a lot of good relationships with other people in emergency management and everything like that. And we're lucky to have you.
Yeah, we always maintain our communications, and no matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we can make a phone call and contact somebody with ease. So that's a good thing with our relationship with Guam Homeland and the CNMI folks, as well as everybody across the region in Micronesia, the embassy staff and other U.S. government agencies. So great framework we have in this region.
Absolutely. Well, when you love what you do, it's never like work. So
that's exactly it.
All right. Have a great week, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And that was, of course, Work Week Weather Forecast brought to you by our friends at Docomo Pacific. And we thank Docomo for sponsoring Landon and his team as they come in and give you the very, very freshest news about the weather.